So we've been covering here how the Biden administration has continued the Trump administration policy of blocking a lift on those vaccine patent protections. Of course, lifting that patent protection would help more of the vaccine to be produced at lower prices through generic versions of it. That would really go a long way to helping the global south enable their vaccination campaign. So many of these countries haven't even gotten the first shot in the arm. So far, Biden hasn't done anything. Reports are that he's been torn. Some people in his administration are basically buying the pharma line. Others are more on the activist side and saying, yeah, this is the right thing to do. Well, our friends over the Gravel Institute reposted this clip of Joe Biden during his presidential campaign, completely unequivocally backing the move to lift that patent protection. Let's take a listen to that.
If the U.S. discovers a vaccine first, will you commit to sharing that technology with other countries? And will you ensure there are no patents to stand in the way of other countries and companies mass producing those life-saving vaccines?
Absolutely, positively. This is the only humane thing in the world to do.
This is the only humane thing in the world to do. He is 100% correct about that during the campaign. And so you ask yourself, well, what happens between when you're running for office and telling people what they want to hear and when you're actually in the position of power to make this happen? Again, it's the U.S. and other rich countries in Europe who are blocking this proposal at the World Trade Organization. Well, one thing that happens is you bring in a White House counselor with deep ties to the pharmaceutical industry, whose brother is actively lobbying on behalf of the pharmaceutical industry. Another thing that happens, you surround yourself with other people who have corporate interests at heart. You take meetings with CEOs, and you end up with this like, gosh, suddenly it's not so clear. Suddenly I'm not sure if it's the right and humane thing to do when he had the clarity on it during his campaign.
It's pretty amazing, that clip, because it's just like, it's the right thing to do. He says it out, and I think
absolutely,
they were asking
positively,
specifically about
very specific
COVID. And this situation, like I said, it's developing and becoming a big problem for the United States. I mean, I said this yesterday, anti-American sentiment in India anecdotally is rising significantly. It's causing problems across the globe. I know just yesterday, Pfizer is beginning to export doses to Mexico. But remember, Pfizer has that vaccine where you need deep freeze in terms of using a Pfizer vaccine in rural parts of the world. Forget about it. They just don't have the infrastructure to even deploy it. And that's why Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and others are actually so important. But really what it is about production, and it's about scaling it to other parts of the world. This is where Johnson & Johnson will probably be the most effective. And it just goes to show where you still have a big problem on your hands. I mean, people are looking at, and Australia, it tells its own citizens who are in India, they're like, you're not coming home. You have to stay. The U.S. has banned travel from India. There's going to be travel bans pretty much throughout the world. Europeans are only letting vaccinated Americans. In terms of getting global commerce back to like a fifth or whatever of where it was, this is a pretty essential move that's happening here. And the Biden team, they're torn, right? It's like you said, they're torn and being pressed by the corporate interest right now.
100%. Pharma is going to the mat. Li Fang has done great work tracking this whole issue over at The Intercept. The number of lobbyists, the amount of dollars that are being poured into this campaign, a pressure from industry to make sure that the Biden administration does not do the right thing here. And I will say this every day on the show, that technology, the mRNA technology that they are so aggressively trying to protect at the cost of many lives around the world, not only a risk to our own population of a variant developing that jumps the vaccine, that technology was developed with U.S. taxpayer dollars. It was a public good. And I just saw a news item this morning. Pfizer's set to make hundreds of billions of dollars on this thing. I mean, this is set to be one of the most profitable drugs in history already. You've made plenty of money on this thing. And by the way, you got that big purchase order guarantee up front. U.S. government helped you create this. And now you're hoarding this technology so that factories, The Intercept also identified factories around the world that are set, ready to go. All they need is the tech and the know-how and authorization to begin churning out additional hundreds of millions of doses of this vaccine. So again, We have the doses that we need.
We're good.
This is not about, hey, let's even take some of our doses and send them around the world, even though we should be doing that too. And to their credit, the Biden administration is considering doing exactly that. This is about increasing the supply, lowering the cost, so it's a lot more accessible for poor countries around the world. And again, if you don't care about the morals of like, these people should be safe and they should be vaccinated as well, think about this is a major risk to our population too, if you allow this thing to continue to spread and potentially mutate. You could end up with a whole other situation. And then how's the Biden administration going to feel about their actions?
Yeah, you can have a much more, already
Time's
I was
wasting.
saying that the current variant in the United States, most people are getting COVID. It's not the old COVID. It's the new UK variant is much more one. It's like 60% or something more infectious. You're only one jump away from something at 100, 150, 200 and more. That's not an exaggeration. These are things happen all the time.
Yep.
The more people get it, etc. That's just how viruses work. So nipping in the bud with the current vaccinations, because vaccines, no variant has been able to jump the current vaccine, is the most effective way in order to get this under control.
Yeah, I hope Joe Biden listens to Joe Biden on this one. More Rising for you after this.